I never thought I'd bury my own father alive in a room full of strangers. But there I was, watching his empire crumble under the weight of his own lies. One notarized signature at a time. The lawyer's voice cracked like a judge's gavel when he read the codicil. My name slashed out in fresh ink, and I could smell the bourbon on Dad's breath from across the table. Victory tastes like regret when it's poisoned with family blood. But the real gut punch? I let him think he'd won for 20 years. Carrying his dirty secret like a scarlet letter sewn into my skin, only to hand him the noose he'd braided himself. The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps as I pushed through the revolving doors of Hargrove and Associates, my heels clicking like the countdown to midnight on New Year's Eve. It was a Tuesday in late October. The kind of crisp fall day that New Yorkers pretend isn't laced with the chill of impending winter. I'd flown in from Seattle that morning, leaving behind the tech grind and the anonymous high-rises that let me vanish into the ether. But vanishing was over. Today, I was Sienna Hargrove, no relation to the firm. Thank God, here to collect on a debt that had festered longer than a bad mortgage. The elevator hummed upward, depositing me on the 42nd floor, where the air smelled of polished walnut and old money. Elaine, Dad's longtime secretary, gave me that pitying smile as she ushered me into the conference room. He's in a mood. Sienna. Best brace yourself. Brace myself? I'd been bracing since I was 16, when the world decided I was the villain in my own life story. The room was a tomb of mahogany and leather-bound regret. Seated around the table, my half-brother Marcus, all slicked-back hair and Rolex gleam, nursing a tumbler of scotch like it was holy water. Aunt Lydia, Dad's sister, her pearls clutched like rosary beads, eyes darting between us like she was waiting for the ambush, and Uncle Theo, the family fixer, his lawyerly tie loosened just enough to hint at the flask in his pocket. And there, at the head, was Harlan Hargrove, my father, the king of Wall Street mergers, the man who'd built a fortune on hostile takeovers and whispered deals in smoke-filled backrooms. He looked smaller now, the lines on his face etched deeper than the canyons of the Grand Canyon. His once iron gaze softened by the chemo that had whittled him down to bone and spite. Sienna, he rasped, not bothering to stand. Didn't think you'd show. Figured you'd be too busy playing house in that rainy hellhole out west. I slid into my seat, the leather creaking under me like a confession. Wouldn't miss it, Dad. Family's everything, right? The words tasted like battery acid, but I let them drip sweet. Marcus snorted. Lydia fidgeted. Theo cleared his throat. The lawyer, Mr. Pendleton, dry as a saltine, with a comb-over that screamed midlife denial, shuffled his papers and began. Harlan Hargrove's last will and testament was a masterpiece of legalese, a labyrinth designed to trap the unwary. He left the Hamptons estate to Marcus, the Pied à Terre in Paris to Lydia, and a modest trust to Theo for services rendered. Modest. My ass, it was enough to buy a small island. And me, Sienna, the black sheep, the glitch in the family algorithm, a lump sum of 50 grand, barely enough to cover a down payment on a Brooklyn walk-up. The room went still as Pendleton read the codicil, dated just 2 weeks ago. To my daughter, Sienna Marie Hargrove, I bequeath nothing further. In light of past indiscretions that have irreparably damaged this family's legacy. Past indiscretions. The phrase hung in the air like tear gas at a protest. Marcus leaned back, smirking like he'd scripted it himself. Lydia gasped, hand to her mouth, performance art at its finest. Theo just nodded, as if he'd notarized the knife twist.
that met my eyes.
His blue iris is cold as Hudson ice. You understand, Sienna. It's business. Business. That's what he'd called it 20 years ago.
2.
When he dragged me into the principal's office at Dalton Academy. My uniform skirt still dusted with the chalk from the chem lab, where the fire had started. I'd been 16. Valedictorian track prodigy. Dreaming of MIT and clean slate futures. But that afternoon, the sprinklers had gone off like Niagara Falls, and the lab was a sopping ruin, equipment fried, rare isotopes scattered like confetti from hell. Arson. They called it. Sabotage. And who took the fall? Not Harlan Hargrove's golden boy. Marcus, who'd torched the place in a jealous rage over me edging him out for the science prize. No. Dad swooped in, his lawyers a swarm of hornets, and pinned it on me. It'll build character, he'd whispered in the car ride home, his hand heavy on my knee. Family protects family. Marcus has a future.
You'll
adapt. Adapt? I lost scholarships. Friends ghosted me like I was radioactive. And the plea deal. Juvenile record sealed. But whispers followed like shadows. Community service in a Jersey soup kitchen. Probation that chained me to the tri-state area while Marcus jetted off to Yale. I carried that lie like a backpack full of bricks, every step grinding me down. But I adapted.
All right.
Transferred to a public school in Queens. Clawed my way through night classes at CUNY. Landed a coding gig at a startup that exploded into a unicorn. Seattle was my reinvention, Sienna 2.0. VP of Engineering. Anonymous donor to arson victim funds. All while Dad's empire ballooned, built on the bones of my silence.
Now,
here we were. The prodigal returned, and he thought a pittance would silence me forever? I felt the envelope in my purse, heavy as a loaded gun, but I let the silence stretch. Pendleton cleared his throat again. Any questions? MS. Hargrove. Marcus piped up first. All faux concern. Sis, you okay? Dad's just looking out for the legacy.
you know,
That whole mess back in high school. Shut it, Marcus, I said, voice level as a surgeon's scalpel. He blinked and used to push back from the family doormat. Lydia chimed in, her southern drawl honeyed venom. Darlin', it's for the best. Blood's thicker, but grudges, they curdle. Theo leaned forward, his fixer instincts kicking in. Sienna, perhaps we can discuss amendments. Privately. Dad waved him off. Triumphant. No need. It's done. He raised his glass. Water. Not scotch. The cancer's small mercies, and toasted the air. To new beginnings. I smiled then, slow and sharp, the kind of smile that says I've got aces up my sleeve and you're about to fold. New beginnings, I echoed, pulling the envelope from my purse. It was unsealed, the flap worn from years of waiting. Inside, a thumb drive, a stack of printouts, and a single letter in my handwriting, dated the day after the fire. Pendleton's eyes narrowed. What's this? Exhibit A, I said, sliding it across the table. Dad's color drained, his liver-spotted hand trembling as he snatched it up. The room leaned in as I began to unravel the thread. It started with the fire, but the real blaze was the secret Dad buried deeper than his regrets. Turns out, Harlan Hargrove wasn't just a merger shark. He was knee-deep in insider trading, tipping off cronies about biotech acquisitions that padded his portfolio like a king-sized mattress. The chem lab? Marcus's petty arson was a distraction, a smokescreen. Literally, for Dad to shred documents in the adjacent admin office. I'd stumbled on it that day, rifling through files for a misplaced lab report, my fingers smudged with ash and ink. Formulas that didn't add up. Emails timestamped after hours. Trades executed before dawn. Proof of fraud that could topple empires. I'd confronted him in the garage that night, rain lashing the windshield like accusations. "Dad, this is illegal. We have to turn it in." He laughed. Low and dangerous. The kind of laugh that echoes in nightmares. "And ruin us all?"
Sienna?
"You're smarter than that. Take the fall for the fire." Marcus was sloppy. "But it'll blow over. In return, I keep this quiet, and you get a fresh start. College fund intact. A fresh start built on lies." I burned the originals that night, or so he thought, fed them into the incinerator behind the bodega on 78th, tears mixing with the soot. But I'd scanned everything first, uploaded to a dead man's switch on a server in Estonia.
Keyed to my heartbeat.
20 years of silence. And I'd watched from afar as Dad's trades ballooned into billions. Marcus climbing the ladder on nepotism's greased rungs. Lydia and Theo feasting on the scraps. The thumb drive held it all. Reconstructed logs. Witness statements I'd anonymously sourced over the years. Even a confession from the night watchman who'd seen Marcus with the lighter. And the letter? My suicide note from age 16. Drafted under duress. "I can't live with what I've done. Forgive me." Dad had used it to seal the juvenile plea, painting me as unstable. The arsonist with a broken soul. "You forged this," Dad hissed now. Face ashen. "It's bullshit." "Is it?" I countered, voice steady as the subway rumble. "Or is it the truth you paid me to swallow? 50 grand won't buy my silence anymore."
Dad.
"But this?" I tapped the drive. "This buys justice." Marcus lunged, but Theo held him back, eyes wide with the math of fallout. Lydia whimpered. "Harlan, what have you done?" Pendleton was already dialing the SEC, his comb-over forgotten in the frenzy. Dad slumped, the king uncrowned.
Sienna. Please.
Family, I repeated, the word ablade. "That's what you said when you let me rot for your sins." As the feds swarmed the building an hour later, cuffs clicking like applause, headlines brewing in the ether, I stepped into the elevator, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was a hollow echo, the kind that follows you home and whispers in the dark. But for the first time in 20 years, I breathed free. The fallout hit like a nor'easter off the Atlantic, swift, brutal, and leaving wreckage in its wake. By dawn, the Hargrove name was splashed across every feed from CNBC to the New York Post. Wall Street titan Harlan Hargrove indicted in multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme. The byline credited an anonymous whistleblower, but the internet's bloodhounds sniffed me out quick. Sienna Speaks trended on X. Memes of me as the vengeful daughter with devil horns. Think pieces debating if I was hero or harpy. Betrayal or justice. The Hargrove heist, one CNN churn blared, while Fox called it daughter's deadly vendetta against dying dad. I holed up in a midtown Airbnb, the kind with blackout curtains and a doorman who didn't ask questions. Seattle felt a lifetime away, my corner office. The barista who knew my order, triple shot Americano. No foam. The anonymous hookups that kept the loneliness at arm's length. Here, every buzz of my phone was a grenade pin pulled. Marcus's text first, "You bitch. You ruined everything."
Call me.
Then Lydia, How could you?
Sienna? He's your father. Sick. Dying. Theo.
Ever the pragmatist. We need to talk. Off the record. Meet at the club? I ignored them all, binging true crime docs and room service burgers. The grease a poor substitute for absolution. Sleep came in fits. Haunted by Dad's face in the conference room, defiant 1 second, broken the next. Was this revenge? Or just the universe's long overdue invoice? The feds had frozen assets. The Hamptons house padlocked like a crime scene. Marcus was holed up in his Tribeca loft, lawyered up to his eyeballs, tweeting cryptic shit about family resilience that got ratioed into oblivion. 3 days in, the knock came. Not the feds, that had been a courtesy call. My statement already in the ether. No, this was softer. Insistent. I peered through the peephole. Aunt Lydia. Makeup flawless. A bakery box in hand like a peace offering. Sienna? Honey. Open up. It's just me. Against my better judgment. Or maybe because isolation breeds bad decisions, I let her in. She bustled past, setting the box on the coffee table. Black and whites from Zabbers. My childhood weakness. Thought you might be hungry. Can't fight the world on an empty stomach. We sat on the stiff couch. The city hum a distant roar. Lydia poured coffee from a thermos. Strong and black. The way Nana used to brew it before the Alzheimer's stole her recipes. He's asking for you, she said finally. Eyes on her cup. In the hospital now. The stress. It accelerated things. Palliative care at Mount Sinai. The email from Theo had said. Stage for pancreatic. 6 months tops. I'd known. Of course, cancer doesn't whisper, it roars. But hearing it from her, laced with that old money guilt, twisted something in my gut. What does he want? Lydia? Absolution? A deathbed rewrite. She sighed. Pearls clicking like dice. Understanding? Maybe. Harlan's a complicated man. Sienna. Always has been. The deals, the secrets, they were for us. For the family. Us, I echoed. Bitter as the dregs. You mean the ones who profited? Marcus with his yacht club memberships. You with your charity galas funded by dirty money. Theo greasing palms, so the IRS looked the other way. Her face tightened, the mask slipping. You think you're the only one who sacrificed? I gave up my career for the circus, teaching, dreams of tenure at Barnard, all to play hostess to Harlan's parade of egos. And Theo.
God.
The man aged a decade covering your father's tracks. Tracks that led straight to me. The human shield. I stood, pacing the room's confines. The skyline mocking me through the blinds. Tell me about the fire. Lydia. The real story. Not the one Dad fed the tabloids. She hesitated, fingers tracing the box's ribbon. Then, soft as confession, Marcus was always intense. Jealous of you, even as kids. You were the smart one, the girl who didn't need propping up. That prize, the National Science Foundation grant, it was his ticket out, but you earned it fair. He snapped. Lighter fluid from the janitor's closet. A timed fuse. Harlan caught wind from a tip, Theo's network, and he contained it by throwing me under the bus. My voice cracked. The old wound suppurating. Not through. Protected. The fraud docs were in that office. Sienna. If the real arson came out, the feds would have torn the place apart. You took a misdemeanor, Marcus walked. And Harlan. He buried the trading logs deeper after that. Built firewalls. Offshores in the Caymans. It was supposed to end there. But it didn't. I stopped pacing. Facing her. Because I kept digging. Quietly. Hired PIs on freelance gigs. Cross-referenced trades with public filings. The thumb drive? That's not revenge. Lydia. That's the truth you all pretended wasn't rotting the foundation. She rose then, eyes glistening, not tears, but the steel of survival. Truth is a luxury. Darling. Harlan's dying. Marcus is ruined. And now you're the villain in the sequel. Is that what you want? To burn it all? I laughed. Hollow. I already did. 20 years ago. In that incinerator. The door buzzed again, Theo this time. Marcus in tow like a storm cloud. They piled in without invitation. The room shrinking under the weight of Hargrove drama. Marcus paced like a caged bull. Face flushed under the tan. You happy now? Sis? Dad's got tubes in every orifice. Reporters camped outside like vultures. My fiancé dumped me, said she can't marry into scandal. Poor baby, I drawled, channeling Dad's old sarcasm. Try losing your Ivy dreams to a juvie jacket, he whirled, finger jabbing the air. That was one mistake. You escalated it to grand theft empire. Theo stepped between us, hands up like a referee.
Enough.
Sienna. The SEC's got everything, your drop. Our ledgers. But Harlan. He recorded a message. For you. Before the arrest. A message. My pulse kicked up. Traitorous hope flickering. They huddled around Theo's tablet. The screen glowing like a portal to purgatory. Dad's face filled it. Gaunt under the hospital fluorescence. Voice a gravel whisper. Sienna. If you're seeing this, I underestimated you. Always did. The will. It was a test. To see if you'd fold. You didn't. Proud of that.
Kid.
But the real inheritance? It's yours. Check the Cayman's account. Number etched in your mother's ring. I flipped the trades years ago. Laundered clean. For you. Use it. Or burn it. Your call. The room spun. Mother's ring, sapphire set gold. Sized for my finger since her overdose, when I was 10. Pills and bourbon. The coroner said, accident. Dad insisted. But the number? 47-29-81. Her birthday backward. I slipped it off, squinting at the inner band under the lamp. There it was. Microscopic. An IBAN code. Routing to a Zurich vault. Marcus exploded. What the fuck? He played us all. Lydia sank onto the couch, whispering,
Oh.
Harlan. Theo's eyes narrowed, calculating. It's leverage. Or a trap. Sienna, you go public with this. It's your get-out-of-jail-free card. Or you bury it. And we rebuild quiet. The choice hung. A sword of Damocles. Revenge had unchained me. But this was temptation wrapped in forgiveness. I pocketed the ring. The metal warm against my skin. I'll think about it. They left in a huff. Marcus slamming the door like punctuation. Alone. I cracked the safe, metaphorically, via VPN and a hacker buddy from the dark web days. The account, $800 million, clean as a whistle. Trails leading back to Dad's retirement fund. He'd flipped the script, laundering his sins into salvation. For me, or to drag me down with him. That night, I dreamed of the fire again, not the lab, but Mom's bathroom. Tiles slick with spilled pills. She'd found Dad's ledgers too. Years before. Accused him in whispers, then swallowed silence. Was this his atonement? Or another layer of the con? Morning brought the call. Dad was gone. Heart attack in his sleep. The stress too much. The news cycle pivoted to eulogies. Marcus posing graveside in Ray-Bans. The family phoenix rising from its own ashes. I didn't attend the funeral. Too busy wiring funds to arson survivor trusts. Anonymously. Like digital Robin Hood. But the ring burned a hole in my pocket.
Keep it.
And I was complicit. Torch it. And I was the monster who'd orphaned my own blood. The headlines debated me already. Sienna Hargrove, Avenger or Opportunist? Comment sections split like fault lines. Justice for Sienna versus Hargrove heartbreak. I booked a flight back to Seattle. The jet stream carrying me west. Revenge was done. But the real war? That was in the mirror. Where the girl from Queens stared back, wondering if freedom tasted like blood money. Seattle welcomed me back with sheets of rain that blurred the Space Needle into a watercolor smear. The kind of weather that drowns regrets if you let it. My apartment in Capitol Hill, loft ceilings. Exposed brick. A view of Puget Sound that mocked my inner turmoil, felt like a sanctuary. But sanctuary's just another cage with better lighting. I unpacked the ring onto the nightstand. Its gleam accusatory under the salt lamp. $800 million. Enough to fund a revolution or buy silence for a lifetime. Dad's final fuck you. Or his olive branch. The ambiguity gnawed like dry rot. Work swallowed me whole. A mercy. As VP at Nextech, I dove into code reviews and pitch decks. The binary world of bomb where betrayal was just a 404 error. My team, nerds with energy drinks for blood, hailed me as the conquering hero after the scandal broke. Dude, you straight up dismantled a dynasty, Raj. My lead dev said over Slack. Gifs of exploding fireworks raining down. I laughed it off, but the praise stuck like burrs. Hero.
Villain.
The lines blurred faster than Seattle fog. Marcus called a week-in, voice slurry with single malt resolve. We need to talk. Sienna. For real. The family's fracturing. Lydia's talking therapy. Theo's law firm's hemorrhaging clients. And that account. Dad left breadcrumbs. Meet me in the city. Neutral ground. Neutral ground. The oak room at the plaza. Ghosts of Gatsby whispering in the paneling. I flew east again. The red-eye a confessional booth with crying babies as priests. Marcus waited in a corner booth, looking like he'd aged into a midlife crisis, stubble shadowing his jaw. Ty Askew. No entourage, just him. Raw and unraveling. You look like shit, I said, sliding in opposite. He barked a laugh, signaling the waiter for 2 old fashions.
Pot. Kettle.
Cheers to Daddy Dearest's parting gift. We clinked, the bourbon burning a path to honesty. Why'd you do it? He asked, eyes bloodshot. The whistle blow. After all this time, I swirled the ice, watching it melt like alibis. Because carrying your sins got heavy, Marcus. And his. The fire was your fuck-up, but Dad weaponized it. Made me the fall guy so his house of cards stayed upright. He winced, rubbing his temples. I was a kid. Angry, stupid. Thought it'd make you back off the prize. Give me breathing room.
Dad.
He fixed it. Said it was no big deal. No big deal, I echoed. The words a slap. I lost everything. Friends. Future, hell. I still flinch at matches. Silence stretched, thick as the cigar smoke from the next booth. Then, soft. I know. I've hated myself for it. But the account. That's real. Sienna. Dad told me, months ago. Said it was his insurance for you? If things went south. Clean money. From legit flips after, he went straight. No strings. No strings? I pulled the ring from my pocket, spinning it on the table like a top. Then why the codicil? Cutting me out like yesterday's trash. Marcus leaned in, voice dropping.
Pride.
Or fear. He knew you were circling, hired a PI on you last year. Traced your freelance digs. Thought the will would smoke you out. Force a family powwow. Instead, you nuked us. The top wobbled. Stilled. And now,
What?
we split the pot, prodigal siblings, mending fences over laundered loot. He shook his head, earnest for once.
No.
You take it. All of it. I don't want blood on my hands. Lydia's set. Theo's got his pension.
Me?
I'll rebuild the hard way. Like you did. The offer hung. A truce in tartan. I searched his face, saw the boy from the fire, lighter trembling in his fist, and the man who'd lost his moorings. Forgiveness? Maybe. Or just exhaustion. Why? Because family's not about the ledger. Sienna. It's the mess we clean up together. He slid an envelope across, docs. Transfers. A post-it with Lydia's scrawl. Use it for good.
Darlin'.
Or don't.
But live.
I left the plaza with the envelope in my coat, the city lights fracturing like promises. Back in Seattle, I hired counsel, clean, no Theo ties, and audited the account. Legit. Miraculously, post-reform trades, audited trails, even charitable offsets Dad had funneled through proxies. $800 million. A Phoenix fund from fraud's ashes. The twist came in the fine print, a sub-account. $50 million earmarked for SMH. Restitution. Mom's initials. Digging deeper. With a forensic accountant who charged like a mob enforcer, I uncovered the real gut punch. Her overdose? Not accident. She'd confronted Dad about the early trades, threatened to go public. He didn't push her. Worse, he dosed the bourbon, just enough to blur the lines. Make it look self-inflicted. A mercy, he'd called it in a sealed memo, buried in the vault.
To protect the family.
The room tilted, rage and grief colliding like tectonic plates. Dad hadn't just stolen my youth, he'd erased her to safeguard his throne. The memo was ironclad, his suicide note. Time to release if I claimed the fund. One last flip. Expose it. And I torched the clean money with his corpse. Bury it. And I became the keeper of his darkest secret. Debate raged in my head. A jury of one. Sienna Speaks evolved into Hargrove Truth. Podcasters dissecting my arc like a Netflix arc. Betrayed daughter to flawed redeemer. Marcus texted daily. Whatever you decide. I'm here. Lydia sent care packages. Nana's recipe book. Annotated with apologies. Even Theo called. Gruff. Kid. Life's too short for grudges. But if you need an ear, I chose the middle path. The controversial gray that splits opinions like a Rorschach blot. Wired the bulk to a foundation. Hargrove Redemption. Funding arson recovery. women's shelters, ethics scholarships for finance with kids. Kept a sliver for myself, enough for a house on the Sound, a trust for future ghosts. The memo? Shredded. Ashes scattered in the Sound at dawn, rain mingling with salt tears. Mom's ring? Melted down, reset into a pendant, her sapphire. My anchor. The headlines twisted. Sienna Hargrove's philanthropic pivot, saint or shrewd cover-up? Forums lit up. Some hailed me as the avenger who spared the blade. Others damned the dynasty enabler who'd laundered legacy. Marcus rebuilt in Boston. A boutique firm shunning the old shadows, Lydia volunteered at the foundation. Finding purpose in penance, Theo retired to Florida. Fishing more than fixing. As for me, I walked the beach at Golden Gardens, waves lapping like unanswered questions. Revenge had unchained the past, but the future? That was mine to forge, flawed, fierce, unapologetically American. No heroes here, just survivors in the wreckage, debating the cost of grace over morning coffee. And in the quiet, I heard Mom's laugh, faint but fierce, live messy. Baby. It's the only way. Epilogue whispers, was Dad's mercy for her? Or him? Did I honor or erase her by silencing the truth? The arguments echo on. In bars and boards. A family fractured but free. In the end, the real inheritance wasn't the money. It was the choice to smile through the storm. Owning everything. Even the ugly.